training of these poor creatures to turn themselves into fighting machines is simply barbaric.
It's what?
Barbaric.
Oh, I didn't hear you.
Barbaric.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Barbaric. Let that word resound from hill to hill and from mountain to mountain, from valley to valley.
Yeah, we get it.
Across this broad land.
Resounding, yeah.
Barbaric. Barbaric. May God help those poor souls.
Senator Robert Byrd.
In one of his finer moments.
You know, he was valedictorian of Mark Twain High School in 1935.
He was valedictorian of high school when Mark Twain was at the school, you mean?
Let me quote the great Robert Byrd. I shall never fight in the armed forces with a Negro by my side. Rather, I should die 1,000 times and see Old Glory trampled in the dirt, never to rise again, than to see this beloved land of ours become degraded by race mongrels, a throwback to the blackest specimen from the wilds.
Wow.
That's Robert Byrd in a letter to another senator in 1944. So how old would he have been in 1944?
Don't make me perform higher mathematics so early in the day.
He would have been 27. He was a member of the KKK, as has been mentioned many times. He was actually he was unanimously elected the top officer in their unit. I
was going to say, yeah, he was a higher up.
Held the title of Kleagle, which is a recruiter, and then finally exalted Cyclops.
Yeah, you know, I was that briefly, but I didn't like being exalted. Too much pressure. So I just went back to being a regular Cyclops.
In 1947...
a work-a-day, lunch pail Cyclops.
In 1947, he wrote a letter to the Grand Wizard saying, "The Klan is needed."
How you doing, Wiz?
The Klan is needed today as never before, and I'm anxious to see its rebirth here in West Virginia and in every state in the nation.
Nice.
He's the only senator to have voted against both Thurgood Marshall and Clarence Thomas, the only two black justices we've ever had in the Supreme Court.
Barbaric.
He's the only senator to have voted against both of those.
Wow.
Barbaric.
He's really got some credit. That's why my headline, among other things, is "Racist Senile Senator Finally Dies."
Right.
He was not in his right mind. He was just a figurehead, which I find disgusting. That's a throwback. What's the reason we founded this country?
Right.
It's a throwback to aristocracy and that sort of thing that's just sickening to me. He was one of the great kings of pork, probably brought more pork to his state than anybody in history, and he was clearly a racist who changed his views enough to get reelected because it was politically expedient. I don't believe for a second that... Hey, let me read why he changed his views about race. This is kind of an interesting quote. Let me find that. It's pretty interesting stuff.
By the way, you've probably voted against Thurgood Marshall because he was an N-er. Voted against Clarence Thomas because he was conservative.
Whatever. He does have the distinction of being the only senator to have voted against both black justices.
Barbaric.
Barbaric.
Oh, I can't find this.
His reasoning in abandoning his racist views of the past?
Yeah. I've got it in my head.
Morgan Freeman or something?
In 1982, his son died.
Oh, I remember this story.
And he thought to himself, black people love their children as much as I love my child.
Wow. See, that's the sort of insights
that
gained him the headlines you see today.
Yeah. Byrd also said that his views changed dramatically after his teenage grandson was killed in 1982. Of course, he would have been, 60 then? Which put him in a deep emotional valley. The death of my grandson caused me to stop and think. And I came to realize that black people love their children as much as I do.
Wow, what?
That's very enlightened as a 60-year-old.
Wait a second, really?
Unbelievable.
From coal fields to heights of power, West Virginia Democrat Robert Byrd dies at 92. The senator used his vast knowledge to shape federal budget, protect Senate's procedural rules, and above else, tend to the interests of his state.
Whatever.
He was an exalted Cyclops, let me remind you of that.
Whatever. I don't know what. He's gone.
and he will be missed.
So,
Mourning in coal country, the other headline.
All they said on MSNBC this morning, the nicest thing anybody could say about him was he was an interesting person.
He solidified his support in coal region through charisma and the good old-fashioned federal pork, federal spending.
Plus, most people knew that behind it all, he really didn't like black people, just like they don't like black people. So he's one of us. They knew deep down that was true.
Long known as a champion of pork, his 51 years in the Senate, decades on the Appropriations Committee, funneled billions of dollars to West Virginia.
They all do that, though, so
yeah,
that doesn't...
He was good at it.
He was just better at it than most.
When he was first elected to the West Virginia House of Delegates in 1946, the state had 4 miles of divided highway. 4 miles. Today, highways cross some 37,000 miles.
Oh, good.
So he was the father of the West Virginia highway system.
Cool.
In a very real sense, Jack.